Colleagues, our meeting is reconvened for the second session of our committee this morning, and we have 1 hour scheduled for this particular session, so that would be 11:50. And in this particular part of our discussions today, we are dealing with Bill S-218, an act respecting Latin American Heritage Month. And this enactment would designate the month of October in each and every year as Latin American Heritage Month. We're very pleased this morning to have with us as witnesses the Honorable Tobias Enverga, who is the sponsor of the bill and a longtime member of this committee, not currently, but a longtime member of the committee. And we have the Honorable Senator Rosa Galvez joining him at the witness table for the presentations. So I'm going to turn to our colleague and sponsor of the bill, the Honorable Senator Enverga, to start first. And I'm assuming that Senator Galvez will make a presentation as well. That will follow, and then we will open up the floor to questions. Senator Enverga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senator, and thank you to my honorable colleagues for allowing me to appear before the Social Affairs, Science, and Technology Committee today. As many of you know, I'm Senator Tobias Enverga, and I am here today to speak on my Senate Public Bill, Bill S-218, an act respecting Latin American Heritage Month. As senators know well, I came to Canada as an immigrant, and I am one of the many senators who has been fortunate to be welcomed here to contribute to our society. There are few countries in the world that are as open and accepting to newcomers as our country. The Canadian policy of multiculturalism is a great success when it comes to allowing for and celebrating the various cultural backgrounds and languages we have. For example, during the month of February, we celebrate Black History Month, so proclaimed by the House of Commons in 1995 and by the Senate in 2008. This month provides all Canadians a significant platform around which they can celebrate, commemorate, and remember achievements by Black Canadians. In May, we welcome Asian Heritage Month in Canada after our chamber adopted a motion for the government to declare it so. During Asian Heritage Month, many non-Asian Canadians learn about the many different cultural heritage from the Asian continent, often taking place around food and entertainment. These months also provide a very important aspect of multiculturalism beyond learning about the culture and legacy of others. They can provide a meaningful vehicle to explore about one's own culture and history. They can provide a series of events that strengthens one's own sense of identity. They can provide persons of immigrant background a sense of understanding and pride of one's heritage. This is why our country is unique. We celebrate diversity rather than enforce assimilation. A Latin American Heritage Month will be part of this continuous exercise in nation building that will signal greater inclusion for many Canadians, including our very own Honorable Senator Galvez, who is present here today with me. Committee members may wonder why we should do this bill rather than by motions, as was done for Black History Month and Asian Heritage Month. It is quite simple. Black History Month was first celebrated in 1996 by the Government of Canada following a motion moved by the Honorable Jean Agustin and unanimously passed by the House of Commons in December 1995. The Senate only confirmed its support by the same motion moved by our former colleague, Senator Donald Oliver, in 2008. That is a delay, so to speak, of 13 years after Parliament's 3 constituents' parts agreed upon the measure. Asian Heritage Month, as I mentioned earlier, comes out of Senator Vivian Poy's motion, passed by this House and then proclaimed by the government in 2002. By establishing a Latino-American Heritage Month by an act of Parliament, all 3 constituent constituent parts, the Queen, the Senate, and the House of Commons, unite in their support of this initiative and offer the appropriate honor to the contributions of Latin Americans, again, like Senator Galvez, to our economy, our culture, and our society. Honorable Senators, as you may recall from the last session, I introduced Bill S-228, an act respecting Hispanic Heritage Month. This was in harmony with the provincial legislation in Ontario and the City of Toronto's declaration. On May 5, 2015, the Honorable Elizabeth Doddswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, assented to Bill 28, an act to proclaim the month of October as Hispanic Heritage Month. Ontario is home to almost half of the nearly 900,000 who identified Spanish as the non-official language spoken at home in the 2011 National Household Survey. The City of Toronto has made a similar declaration in February 2014. In that declaration, the City of Toronto formally requested the Government of Canada to declare October Hispanic Heritage Month for the whole country. After some public consultations and further consideration of what would be the most inclusive and neutral wording, I decided to change the focus of the bill to Latin America as a geographic, linguistic community which would not only add Lusophone and Francophone communities, but also that of indigenous peoples of the region. As one person stated, it allows inclusivity of all, any multiple identities, because it allows self-identification, meanwhile celebrates a land and histories that connect us all. End of quote. This is just another example of how important it is to keep learning about our diverse backgrounds. With the Latin American Heritage Month, issues such as this, issues of self-identification within the multicultural context of Canada, will enhance our understanding of the complexities that are involved. The complexities of what it means to be Latin American may not be as evident to most Canadians. It is in the spirit that I propose this legislation. Here in Canada, the Latin American community is large, with vibrant and growing rapidly. Canadians of Latin American heritage contribute to their communities and to the economy in a positive way from coast to coast to coast. A sign of the rapidly growing Latin American Canadian community is that there are civic and cultural organizations spanning all professions and fields which claim and celebrate the common heritage and unite around this commonality to improve their ability to succeed. Honorable Senators, our former colleague, the Honorable Vivian Poy, put it well when speaking to her motion to declare May as Asian Heritage Month in 2001. She said, Canada is benefiting from the diversity of these new voices. Nationally, our culture is maturing as we recognize and integrate new visions of our past, present, and future into our collective story. End quote. Declaring the month of October Latin American Heritage Month will be a wonderful opportunity for us to contribute to our collective story, a uniquely Canadian story which is increasingly filled with symbols of multiculturalism, a shared history that has led us to the society we now live in, where our rights and freedoms are protected under the principles of peace, order, and good government. I thank the committee members here this morning for their attention and consideration on this important bill. Muchas gracias.
Senator Galvez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and member senators, colleague of the Standing Committee on Social Science and Technology. I am so happy to see so many female colleagues in this committee. I feel not lonely. A special thanks to Senator Enverga for asking me to testify today. As you know, I was born in Lima, Peru. I spent my childhood and teenage years in a typical Latin American overpopulated busy city, similar to other capitals such as Santiago, Mexico City, or Rio de Janeiro. But also common to Latin America countries, I grew with the views of magnificent landscape that cross borders, such as the Andes, the Amazon jungle, or the desert strip from Ecuador to Tierra del Fuego in Chile and Argentina. I was 24 years old when I married this Canadian journalist of French and Scottish origin and immigrated to Canada. With him, I have 3 children of 29, 27, and 17 years old. So you can see from my face that I have a Spanish, but also Aboriginal blood. And our children then have French, Scottish, Spanish, and Aboriginal. It's a real soup of DNA. Thus, unlike most Latinos in Canada, I'm not an economical immigrant or political refugee. I came to Canada for love, became Canadian by choice, and have lived here for 37 years, more time here than in my original country, Peru. I know I could have picked my country or other countries as my residence, but I didn't. My home is Canada, and my love for Canada is infinite. In Canada, having nature so close, having mighty rivers and lakes and clean air, does not have price for me. People from Central and South America have immigrated to Canada since the 60s by waves and in larger numbers each time. Most have immigrated due to harsh political or economical conditions in their countries. This immigrant has brought with them a rich cultural heritage, particularly in arts such as craft, textile, music, agriculture, food products, cuisine, but also perspectives in history and relationships with indigenous people. Anybody here who has enjoyed a Cirque du Soleil show recognizes the influence of pre-Columbia's styles, legends, and music. 37 years ago, when I arrived, Mexican or Peruvian restaurants were seldom or non-existent in our cities. Today, they can be found with ease. For your information, there is a ceviche festival here in Ottawa. It takes place once a year, and it gathers cuisine from Chile, Mexico, and Peru. Latin America students makes for a substantial group in graduate studies in science and engineering at many Canadian universities coast to coast. At their turn, these immigrants that could have chosen to return to their countries, they didn't. They remained in Canada. Indeed, according to Ethnic Diversity Survey, 82% of citizens with Latin American origin feel a strong sense of belonging to Canada like me. And they did it by choice. 17 of Latin American adults living in Canada hold university degrees compared to the average of 15, and 64 are employed compared to average 62. This indicates a high rate of integration to the economy and to the society of Latin American immigrants. But honestly, if Latin Americans remain and love Canada, it's not for the job opportunities. It is because of the openness, the values, the hard working, the resilience, and the kindness of its people. As I recently mentioned it in a statement, last August I was in Peru. I participated in a meeting convened by the President of the Congress of Peru and I represented the Speaker of the Senate. Presidents and Vice Presidents of Congress of Latin American countries, Argentina, Brazil, Costa Rica, Chile, Colombia, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, and Spain, gathered to strongly condemn the actions of the present Venezuelan president. I reiterated Canada's commitment to democratic values in the Americas and called for a negotiated return to democratic order in Venezuela. Our shared history, recent culture, economic ties reunites Latin American countries. Individually and together, they are important allies to Canada. It was important that Canada sign this statement that reaffirms our trust on democratic values and elevates Canada as a model of a developed country to be followed. I support and thank Senator Enverga for sponsoring this bill. A Latin America Heritage Month will provide Canadians with a yearly recurrent opportunity to celebrate and learn more about the cultural heritage and legacy of Latin Americans in Canada, and be a part of this continuous exercise in nation building, as it was well said by Senator Enverga in his Senate statement. Latin American Canadians, such as myself, are one link between democratic nations of the Americas. Recognizing our shared cultural heritage in Canada with Latin American Heritage Month will strengthen the ties between Canada and Latin American countries and celebrate the contribution of Canadians and permanent residents of Latin American origin to Canada. I think I don't need to mention to this committee the long list of multilateral agreements that Canada holds with individual and group of Latin American countries for political, economical, cultural, and commercial reasons. Finalement, mais pas pour autant moins importante, on doit considérer qu'au Canada, nous avons la culture latine francophone, héritage français. En effet, les communautés francophones du Canada, telles celles du Québec, de l'Acadie, du Manitoba, de l'Ontario, bénéficieraient des échanges, de l'esprit de solidarité, de la culture commune des communautés provenant de l'Amérique latine. Je vous remercie beaucoup de votre attention. Je suis prête à répondre vos questions.
Merci beaucoup. Okay, thank you both for your presentations. I'm now going to open up the floor to questions from our colleagues, and I'm going to begin with Senator Eggleton, to be followed by Senator Cormier.
Well, I guess it's more of a comment than a question, if I may, but I'll try to wind it up in a question. I appreciate the presentations that both of you have made. You've made compelling arguments, and I'm very interested in learning about the roots of Senator Galvez. I think this gives us an opportunity, would you not agree, to know that in the Americas there's more than just our neighbor to the south. Our focus has always been very substantially on our neighbor to the south. But there are other countries in the rest of the continent, and I've had the pleasure of visiting many of them. And when I was mayor of Toronto to establish relations, city-to-city relations with Lima, Peru, and Sao Paulo, Brazil, and when I was Minister of International Trade in the Chrétien government, I signed a free trade agreement with Chile. So I've had an opportunity to get to know some of the people in these countries and know how much they value the relationship with Canada. And I think what you're suggesting here is just another way of saying, yes, we care about Latin America as well, and it gives us a chance to strengthen those relationships and to strengthen them on the basis of the people that came here from those places and who have those ties. So I guess in supporting it, I'd ask you the question, are the communities, though, the Latin American communities in Canada, are they supportive? Are they prepared to help in celebrating the month in a real action-filled way that will help to strengthen relations between Canada and Latin America?
Senator Enverga.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Senator. Yeah, actually, yes. The answer is yes. They're waiting to. I've talked to several organizations who celebrate multicultural events, and they thought it's really appropriate to have events to have the October, because as we know, there's a lot of celebrations during the month of October already, and then with the Latin Americans, it will be nice if there will be recognized more like a Heritage Month, so that they can all celebrate together.
Senator Galvez.
Yeah, the same answer. They are waiting, actually. When they knew about this bill, my office have received many calls, and they are just eager to know when this is happening, and then they will start. There is already lots of celebrations along the year, and they just want to have this opportunity to put them all together then.
Thank you very much.
I think you're aware that there was a letter, eh?
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, it's been circulated.
Great.
Senator Cormier to be followed by Senator Amidra.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci beaucoup pour vos présentations et votre présentation, sénatrice Galvez, qui est assez émouvante, puisqu'effectivement, vous mettez en relief votre culture, mais les raisons aussi pourquoi cette culture est si importante pour nous ici au pays. Je vais vous poser une question, mais d'abord, j'ai ce commentaire ou cette réflexion, puis je ne veux pas qu'elle soit perçue comme du cynisme, mais c'est vrai qu'au Canada, on parle beaucoup de diversité. On parle beaucoup de multiculturalisme. C'est énormément présent dans notre discours. J'ai parfois l'impression qu'on célèbre la diversité et le multiculturalisme de façon assez superficielle, c'est mon point de vue personnel, ou que les cultures entre elles fêtent, mais de façon plutôt fermée sur elles-mêmes. Alors, j'applaudis donc l'arrivée d'un projet de loi qui propose à tous les Canadiens de célébrer la présence des Latino-américains. À votre avis, quel sera l'impact ou quel devrait être l'impact de ce projet de loi sur la sensibilisation de l'ensemble des Canadiens à la richesse de la présence latino-américaine? Quel impact ça pourrait avoir dans notre système d'éducation? Comment ce projet de loi pourrait rayonner dans notre système d'éducation? Comment ce projet de loi pourrait faire en sorte que sur nos scènes culturelles, dans nos émissions, la présence latino-américaine soit beaucoup plus grande et ne soit pas strictement perçue comme de l'exotisme dans notre pays?
I'll start with the sponsor of the bill again, and then Senator Galvez can.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And of course, you know, I'm actually a member of the Asian Heritage Month. I actually organized some events for Asian Heritage Month, and I saw the potential here for Latin American Heritage Month, because this time here, all the different nationalities will be able to meet each other and we'll be able to celebrate together. So, and at the same time, it will be going to the school organizations. And what's going to be happening is everybody will be able to understand and the culture and the heritage of Latin Americans. And this will be good as a Canadian as a whole, right? So because that's why I proposed this bill.
Senator Galvez.
I think it's been like 20 years I've been going to primary and secondary schools to talk about Latin America, because children are fascinated with their legends. The legends of the Azteca, the Maya, the Incas, they are just simply fascinated. And I didn't thought that I was losing my time or not being paid for expending these hours in this, talking to these mostly Quebecois children. I was so happy to see their faces. These histories, legends, opens their mind. It pushes buttons in their creativity. It's unbelievable. I have also been part of commercial missions to Latin America. One that I remember very well with politicians and businessmen is to Chile for wine. So there is a lot of agricultural products and a lot of more sustainable agricultural practices that are being brought from Latin American traditional knowledge in agriculture being transferred without that everybody knows that it's happening already. I'm an engineer, so I can talk from my perspective. I have convinced many engineers to go teach in South America, and I have convinced many Latin American students to come listen to courses here in Canada. So I think that there is, with this, will open many, many more doors for many, many other people in other fields than the ones that I am familiar with.
Thank you. Senator Amidbar to be followed by Senator Petitclerc.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to both of you, and especially Senator Enverga, for your leadership on this bill. I did a very quick scan of Heritage Days. We have, of course, Black History Month. We have Commonwealth Month. We have Asian Heritage Month. We have National Aboriginal Day. And we have Canadian Multiculturalism Day. And now, if we wish you well, we will have a Latin American Heritage Month. So it's actually quite surprising to me which communities seem to have galvanized around creating months for themselves and which are still maybe thinking about it. My question, though, is more around the celebrations. I believe that these months and celebratory days should be used to introduce the culture, the literature, the music, the heroes, the trade possibilities to Canadians. Okay, so when I go to some of these celebrations, I'm a little worried that we are focusing on the food, the culture, the music, and we are talking amongst ourselves by and large. I wonder, Senator Enverga, if you would sort of envision the celebrations in Ottawa in a way that bring the Latin American communities and their cultural expressions to Canadians as opposed to bringing Latin Americans together.
Oh, well, I could actually use my work with the Asian Heritage Month, which is every year we celebrate it here. I think you must have attended some of that already here in the Parliament Hill.
Yeah.
And this is actually happening all over the country in different cities, that the Asian culture are being introduced to the mainstream communities. That's what's happening. It's more like we have even an Asian Heritage Food Festival where we invite everybody from all over Toronto, where they can taste foods, the food and delicacies of each and every country in Asia. So which is good, and this will be actually good, especially for something like a festival that we might be able to have, where all the Latin American countries can celebrate or put some great festivities where each and every Canadian can join and enjoy.
Thank you. Senator Galvez, do you wish to add?
Maybe I understand that the idea is that Canadians here become in contact with the Latin American, and that from this dialogue, good things happen. I think that this is already happening at a certain level, but here and there. And maybe what this month can do is give the opportunity to take all of these events that are taking it here and there and putting them together. Just want to invite you to come to my office. I have a big paint by an Aboriginal artist from the north of Canada that is called Souvenirs from Peru. And these artists had already an association, and Canadian artists have already visited Peru, and they have come, and they have been impressed with what they have seen, and they do these beautiful things.
Thank you. Senator Petitclerc to be followed by Senator Miji.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Ma question fait suite un petit peu à ce qu'on vient d'entendre et j'aurais envie d'avoir un petit peu l'autre perspective, en fait. C'est-à-dire que je pense qu'on comprend très bien comment ce mois peut ouvrir des horizons, nous donner l'opportunité à des personnes comme moi qui ne sont pas de la communauté d'Amérique latine de découvrir. De s'éduquer, de découvrir la culture, la nourriture et tout ça. Je serais intéressée, peut-être, sénatrice Galvez, et en me pardonnant peut-être, parce que c'est peut-être un petit peu personnel, de savoir, quand on fait partie d'une communauté d'Amérique latine, qu'est-ce que ça peut vouloir dire pour vous, pour vos enfants, pour les enfants de cette communauté-là, d'avoir ce mois-là? Quel impact ça peut avoir au niveau peut-être émotif, personnel? Est-ce que c'est juste un symbole ou est-ce que ça peut avoir un impact plus grand peut-être?
Good question. Very good question. When I finished what I wrote, I sent it to my children, and I said to them, "You are 50% Latino. So what do you think?" So I received the answers from my children, and one said, "Great! I won't be confused anymore as a Portuguese or as a Greek." So that is a very good thing for them to say, you know, because my children, the looks are Latino, and but the minute they speak, they are Quebecois. So there is a lot of children like that I think that by recognizing that there is 1 month, they will be able to identify, you know. I don't know if you heard the news yesterday. There was a video from the Danish government saying that only children that has born and from parents of Danish are considered Danish citizens. We are so incredibly lucky that we don't have this. So I think that there will be a lot of positive repercussion on all these immigrants here in Canada.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Senator Meiji, to be followed by Senator Greenrain.
Merci, M. le Président. Moi, c'est juste un commentaire un peu pour appuyer ce qui a été dit et suite aux différentes questions. C'est que, en fait, le mois de l'histoire des Noirs, mais ce que j'ai remarqué, c'est vrai qu'il y a des cérémonies qui se font. C'est les Noirs entre eux avec 2 ou 3 personnes d'autres origines, mais il y a aussi des cérémonies qui se font où on invite beaucoup de gens de toutes les cultures, les Québécois, les Canadiens, de toutes les provinces qui peuvent venir. Ça dépend de qui le fait. Donc, ce serait dans l'organisation, parce que quand il y a d'autres personnes qui viennent, il y a un bel échange entre les peuples, tant au niveau de l'art que d'autres parties de la culture de ces personnes. Donc, je pense que c'est dans la façon dont on va choisir de le fêter qui va faire toute la différence. Si on fait juste une petite rencontre entre les gens du même groupe, ça donne peut-être rien. C'est juste leur dire qu'ils sont là. Donc, c'était juste ça que je voulais ajouter.
Okay, that was just a general commentary. Senator Greenrain, to be followed by Senator Stuart Olson.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Enverga, for pursuing this bill. And I personally was very pleased to see that you found a different title, Latino-américain, rather than Hispanic, because to me, by doing that, it suddenly rang a bell as why this is such a good bill. Because Latin-American is a geographical region full of diverse people, and including indigenous people. And we are a country the same with our diverse population and our indigenous cultures. So I think that we can really relate now in a much better way than had we thought of it as Hispanic, which has roots to Spain. And I see this as really rooted in the reality of our shared continents. And so I congratulate you on the bill. And I just wanted to ask, how did you come about making that decision? Is there anything more you wanted to add?
Well, you know what, Hispanic actually, I would say I'm a little bit Hispanic because of the conquistadors also discovered the Philippines back then. So so I would relate more with Hispanic, but I realized it by talking to different people, different nationalities, that, you know what, how about me? How come I'm not included there? So we just figured out that this is the best thing to do it, make it more inclusive.
Thank you. Senator Stuart Olson, to be followed by Senator Seidman.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentations. I just wanted to add to what's already been said, but I will never forget when I saw my first Mayan ruin. And I will never forget the idea that I had not known before was that of the very superior cultures that existed in South America and in Latin America before even in Europe. And I think that it will be a great advantage to our country because our focus is our continent. We're all here, we're all interrelated. And I think that the more we can learn about these great civilizations, the more we can learn about ourselves. So I thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Seidman to be followed by Senator Griffin.
Thank you. Thank you both very much for your presentations. I don't have a lot to add because everybody around this table has already said so much. And I agree with them all. And I think I've already learned so much just listening to your testimony. So I think that's a wonderful beginning. And I'd like to congratulate you, Senator Enverga, and I'd like to congratulate you, Senator Galvez, and say thank you for bringing this to us. It is, Latin America indeed is, as Senator Eggleton said, is part of our geography, and it's it makes us much more aware that we don't just have our immediate southern neighbors, but we have a lot more to learn from and to benefit from. So I do thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Griffin to be followed by Senator Amidvar, and I think we'll probably wrap up after Senator Amidvar.
Okay, I don't have a question. I basically have a comment. That is, I really liked the bill. I think the fact that it's inclusive is terrific. In Prince Edward Island, we have a very small population of people who would have come from Latin America, but then we have a small population in total. But this will give our people from Latin America and their descendants a much greater opportunity to make themselves more well known within the community. So I think it's great.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Amidvar.
Quick question. Can we assume that there are no costs to the taxpayer as a result of this legislation?
Well, no, I don't think, I cannot foresee anything other. Maybe if the Minister of Culture will make some event, yeah, that might be.
You're not opposed to receiving some, but you're not requesting any.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Well, I think this has been really a wonderful, wonderful discussion. I'm going to invite our two colleagues to remain where they are, if they would like, as I proceed to the next phases of our study of this bill. And so I'm